Good morning, Illini, and welcome back to Healthy Illini Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Schrock, and we are in February. This semester flies by, last semester flew by, and we're already jumping into that and looking at different aspects of health and wellness as always. I'm really excited about today because we got a little bit different look of what we're doing and have some personal experience stories coming, so I hope you stick around and check it out. Today I'm joined by three guests. They are coming to share their personal experiences and their personal perspectives when it comes to health and wellness. First up, we have Dr. Anita Ng. She is one of our providers here at McKinley Health Center, but not just working here at McKinley. She has worked with all kinds of demographics from all over the world in her time as a provider. And her family heritage is Chinese, and I say that for a reason, and it'll make more sense in just a moment. But Dr. Ng, thank you so much for being here. Next up, we have two students. They both happen to be PhD students in the College of Ed, so they have some similarities in their background, but also some uniqueness in their background. First up, we have Yanning Cao, and she is, as I said, a PhD student in the College of Ed, but she has her background from China. Yanning, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Our second student is Aidana Sirgabayeva. She, as I said, is also a PhD student in the College of Ed, but her background is she's from Kazakhstan. So Aidana, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting.
Okay, so we talk a lot on Healthy Illini about health and wellness. That's pretty much our primary focus, what we try and address from all kinds of aspects. And we talk about, we have professionals on, we have stats, and we have programs, things like that. But today, I'm actually hoping to spend some time comparing different perspectives on what it means to when someone talks about health and wellness. Specifically, different perspectives from regions or different societies and how that impacts the perception of health and wellness. And so, as I mentioned, you all have different backgrounds from where you're from, your experiences, and where your journey is really. And so let's start there. I want to let you introduce yourselves a little bit. And so if you would just tell us what your family lineage is, where you're from, and how long have you been here as a part of the UIUC community?
Yeah, I can start. So I'm a first-year PhD doctoral student here at UIUC. So it's my first time living in the States. So it's been only 4 months since I've moved here. I'm from Kazakhstan. I'm Kazakh region. My parents are Kazakh, and they're originally from Kazakhstan. So speaking about the health and wellness things, the topic is very interesting because I have thought about the wellness a lot after moving to the US, because I see every day people doing morning jogging things, the running. You see a lot of people in the recreation centers. So, and also I met a lot of, older generation people walking during the weekends in the parks and other streets with their children, kids and stuff, because I myself, the mother, we also do family walks. So this is like very interesting thing I found out while moving here in the States. While back in my hometown, maybe because I live in the capital city of Kazakhstan, we don't have many parks and green streets and, those avenues to walk, to have a family walk. So the mostly family entertainment in Kazakhstan back is, indoors. Usually go to the malls, some entertainment for the kids. So it's not very walking outside thing, natural experience. That's the one thing I find very interesting.
And I want to come back to that. I want to talk about that experience. Before we do, your background is Kazakhstan. Anita and Yanning, your backgrounds are rooted in Chinese culture. So Yanning, would you share a little bit about your journey and how you got here?
Yes, for sure. So actually, I'm also the first-year PhD student here, but back to 2020, I studied here as master student. So actually, this is my second time back to the U of I. Like you said, I'm from China, and only me are staying abroad now. So the whole family are staying in China. But I think it's a little bit different from Aidana's experience. Because my hometown, we have lots of parks. So I do see a lot of people walking or running in the morning in the park. So this is one of my habits. So that's a little bit different from my observation.
Okay. And Anita, if you would share a little bit about your journey and how you ended up here and some of your background of where you came from.
I'm a lot older. So I mostly grew up on the East Coast. I spent some of my childhood in Malaysia. My parents are sort of like journey Chinese people. My dad was part of like the Fujian immigration out of Southeast China and had lived several generations, his family in Malaysia. My mom came from this group called the Guest people, Hakka people in southern China. And they were on the losing side of World War II and left in a hurry for Taiwan, where she grew up. They met in Taiwan and came to the U.S. and had me. My brother was born in Malaysia. I had a very formidable Chinese grandmother and lots of sort of health ideas that were passed down from that side of the family. Kind of interesting family relationships from that side, sprinkled throughout Taiwan and the mainland China, but also many, many first cousins in Malaysia, and their sort of mixed culture ideas and experiences, which really helped me when I was working in my residency and as a young attending at Boston Medical Center. I met tons of people from all over the world because it was a port city. Lots of Ethiopians, Africans, Caribbean people from Cape Verde, and such a wide range of humans. Like I had people in my practice who were homeless and convicts, and I had a whole group of people who told me about their homemade tattoos in prison. As well as people who had like left Haiti because of the earthquakes and problems there. People who were criminals and MIT professors all came to our practice. It was really, really interesting time.
This highlights something that I want to talk about a little bit as we go, because I want to go next to the idea of like Adana said, that, some differing in ideas when you come, this is different from where I'm from. But we're talking mainly about international, but it's also about regional. That can be a difference too, because it doesn't matter if you move from a country to another country, sometimes just a neighborhood to another neighborhood, you have different social norms, you have different ideas of what's expected or how things function. And that can play a huge part into it. And Adana, you already started to talk about it a little bit in that you said that coming here and walking outside was something that was kind of new in a lot of ways because you didn't have that experience at home. So as we're for all of you, as you came to the UIUC community, especially, what things stood out that were kind of foreign or unknown or surprising? What were the things that, like, in your first few days, weeks, month here, what were the things that you're like, oh, this is very different from the experience I'm used to?
So maybe it will be like food thing. So first thing, you need to move, you go to the apartment and try go some grocery shopping. And we see the same appearance as the same banana, but one says organic and second says non-organic. So I was like, wow, what's the difference? And start Googling. Well, I know what's the organic thing like, but it's like so different back at home, because in the home we have like street markets. Everything you don't divide them as organic and non-organic. So every time I go shopping, I need to think like, what do I need? Organic or cheaper? So every time I need to decide. And while having a small kid who's like 4 years old, you also do, special prep for the kid's meal. So that's the very outstanding thing, which is very different and which caught me like in the first week of arrival here at the Champaign Urbana.
I can jump in because I'm thinking, I think the most different things are like the thing get my attention. Like when I did grocery shopping, back to my home country in China, we do have lots of like the morning market. So people just set up on the street, and then you can just walk in and then you chat with people. But here it's most like the supermarket setup, and then like you just came in and then you find whatever you need. So I think that's a little bit different, because sometimes if I realize, oh, I haven't seen this fruit or I haven't seen this veggie before. And then I will chat with people, say, oh, like, how do you eat? Like, how should I cook? And then, like, you get a lot of conversation with people. And then, like, maybe it's helped me to understand what's a culture. Because in the past 2 years, I moved from my hometown to another city, which is totally different. So I did learn a lot through these types of conversation. But I think here in the grocery shopping especially, it's most like the supermarket. So like I always use Google a lot to actually just search it.
Did having that difference in that you can't just go to, like, the morning market is not available and the vendor is not available to talk to, did that affect how you had to approach your own nutrition? Like, 'cause you have to find things in different ways, or you have to use different recipes or things that aren't necessarily as available, things that are native to your country that are not as native here, or things that are native to America that are easy to access that were rare there. Did that particular aspect, did it change how you approached your own nutrition and your family's nutrition?
Yeah, totally. Because back home we use different types of meat, which is not available here in the States. So that was one thing we have adjusted. And we eat more fish and seafood thing, which is, I find, very cheaper. So Kazakhstan is a landlocked country. We don't have, access to the sea and ocean. That's why maybe seafood is very expensive there. So maybe this is an advantage we are having experience here in the States. And the other thing, as you said, yeah, all my recipes gone actually adjusting, because at the first, I was trying, actually having spent 20 minutes trying to find the yeast. Because back in Kazakhstan, maybe it's a marketing thing, the products are laid out differently. So I just walk round and round. Also, they have the big tags. So yeah, we tasted maybe first 2 months, we tasted many different foods. Some we unfortunately threw away because like we didn't like it at all and it tastes differently. So, but now after 4 months spent here, we more or less adjusted to the food here. And our recipes got adjusted. We have some new food that we have tried in different events across the campus. We very liked it. We tried to search for the ingredients and the recipes. So we have new menu now. That's very cool.
That's a difference, actually. My experience is a little bit negative because, like, I'm not really good at cooking, actually, like, if I'm honest with you all. So my menu for now is very simple. So actually, if I go to the supermarket, I only buy the broccoli, cabbage, celery. Like, these are 3 main veggie I eat every single day, actually. Like, I do see some veggies I never saw before, like, because I don't know how to cook, and I'm not very confident if I learn from the Google or, like, I watch the video from the YouTube, it's going to help me. So I choose a safer way. I only pick, like, the specific few types of veggie. Yeah, so that's the reason why my menu for the everyday is very simple.
I'm going to digress from our conversation for a moment and plug here. If you are listening and you're not sure about vegetables or preparation, we have dietitians here at McKinley who would be happy to help with that. And we have a YouTube series that's on some cooking. There's options here on campus. And so if you're looking to, and I'm not saying you have to, but if you're looking to try some new things and learn how to use them and how to prepare them, if you're unfamiliar with them, let us know. Contact McKinley. We will gladly put you in contact with someone here or someone on campus who can help with that. So that's a little aside on that, but we have those resources.
That's good to know.
Anita, what about you? Because again, it's not just international we're talking, but in area. I mean, the cuisine in Boston, you mentioned Boston, is very different than the cuisine in Central Illinois. But there's some aspects there. Was there anything that when you came to this area that you were like, oh, this is slightly different than what I'm used to?
Traffic. So the great thing is, in Boston, there's an entire part of my brain that was devoted for traffic. Going from one place to another, it's a very crowded city with like cow paths or streets. And here, it's all straight. And I can get to pretty much any place within 12 minutes that I need to go. And I really enjoy that there are actually Asian markets in a college town. Have you been to Far East?
Yes, I went there, and I, like, in general, I go to the Fresh International,
Yeah.
but like it's a little bit far away. You need vehicle to go there. That's the reason why, like, I only join my friends if they go there.
Yeah. But it's very nice for someone with a vehicle and can, make the things that I want to try.
For sure. So as we're talking about going from one area to another, one culture to another, and bridging those gaps, so one of my questions is, in your experience, has there been a different emphasis on health and well-being? Like, how is it viewed? I know in some countries, the collective identity is much more important than the individual. In others, it's flipped. The individual is more important than the collective. And when we're talking about what it means to be healthy, what it means to be well, were there aspects that you've noticed in your time here that it's different here than what you came from, whether it be personal or family or anything like that? Are there any of those aspects that you noticed a pretty stark difference?
Well, I can say in some of my travels, my husband and I lived in Beijing for a couple of years. And for 4 summers, we would spend a month or 6 weeks in Taiwan to introduce my 2 daughters to, different foods and the language. And the public space is very different, I think, in some of the Asian cities that we've been to. As you said, there are places where lots of people walk. Older people, like there's a whole culture of older people exercising in Beijing in the 90s, often with their birds or crickets, their small pets. They had at that time, bare bones concrete apartments, but there was this shared sense of community, often super early in the morning.
That's true.
Yeah, and then seasonality of food, all kinds of fresh food coming in from the donkey carts in the mornings. It was lovely to kind of experience that with our children.
Yes, exactly. I think, yes, especially like if you're living around the park, and if you go to the park around like 5, 6, 7, you're gonna see a lot of people exercise over there. And in the past, like the 10 years, I will see people start to do like the square dancing. I'm not sure if you saw some videos before, but it's very popular. Like one of my colleagues, she's from South Africa, and her first month in China was very amazing for her, because she said why people are so have all the energy to dance during the night, because people after the dinner and people just use like this 1 hour to do the exercise and dance together. So it's types of community for the people who living around, like people chat, people dance together. Yeah, that's the new trend I will see from my observation.
I find that interesting because here in the U.S., exercise tends to be a very individual activity. There are classes you can do with groups. Everybody says, "Oh, it's great to be with a group," but even in the group, you're doing your thing in the group. It's not you're dancing with somebody or interacting with that. So that's really an interesting aspect, because when I think of exercise, it's always a very individualistic thing. Even if there's people around, it's like I'm using my weights, or I'm using this treadmill, or I'm doing this thing. And so that's an absolutely interesting perspective to bring. And it's not just about exercise we're talking about. It's also about, perspective and mental health. And Adana, you talked a little bit in the prep. One of the things you talked about was the idea of work days, of how you spend your time in your job and things like that, and the difference between what your experience was in Kazakhstan and what you observe here in the U.S. You want to share about that just a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So before starting my doctoral program, I worked in the higher education, actually at the university for 8 years. And then usually in Kazakhstan, you can actually be reached out by email or phone call from your workplace, like late in the evenings, 10, 11 p.m., because they have some urgent thing from the Minister of Education or something, very high officials. So you need to work out until then 8 a.m. morning. And then they can also reach out to you on the weekends. And my husband actually worked all the Saturdays unofficially, but he has to work because a lot of work, out there. But after my experiences here in the university, I work part-time as an international student. I've never been called or emailed on the weekends. The same with the professors. Even it's academic thing, they never send anything during the weekends. They have set up all the deadlines. It's very strict. And I appreciate that people actually respecting each other's time. And there is separation between the work days and then the weekends. So on the weekends, you can be, relaxed, rest, and have some time with your family or yourself. And then on the weekdays, you're actually ready to start working. So that's the big difference I see on the work industry, let's say, here in the States and back in Kazakhstan.
Do you think that's an emphasis on here the individual wellness is important, whereas there you sacrifice that individual for the good of the quote unquote good of the whole, and that's why you can be accessed at any time, because the good for everybody is better than your own personal time. Am I reading that kind of correctly? Is that kind of the mentality?
That's kind of the same. Yeah. You get me correct, because like when they reach out to me, let's say my boss or director reach out to me, he reaches out to the whole, office or unit. So we have to chat through Zoom or other things. We have to meet and sort out those, stuff and have done that work. But while here, it's like more of individual tasks I have assigned for. So I know my deadline. I know like things. If there are some important things that are thrown up, like, oh, we have to do it tomorrow. But then even though I have some, in advance information, the same as maybe wellness thing as well. So while Anita and Yanin were sharing about the public, wellness things when people go out together, the same in Kazakhstan. We have seasonal, let's say, sport types or working out. On the winter, we have a lot of snow and it's very cold. So we go, hiking or skating or skiing thing. And in the summer, it's like more of a swimming thing. So we have all 4 seasons. That's why our sports and, entertainments are also different. That's the thing you want to do, during a vacation or with your friends or with colleagues as well. We have networking events every season. So more of things than we do as a group. Yes.
I have a really question for you as a young mom. Like, how do you feel about your work-life balance now that you've come here? Because, I'm an old mom.
So while moving here, the great help was from my husband, because he's helping me with a child and care and everything, because it's a bit stressing for my family to move here in the States. It's actually the second country after our home country to move here. So it's really, let's say, unexpected for them and really sacrificing their own time or professional career and thing. And my child, he's 4 years old. Maybe this is the biggest thing I enjoy, because he has not got to, to the school. He doesn't have to go to school right now. He goes just to the, early education, childhood centers. So it's very easy to me. And the work-life balance and study, as I said, like, they don't bother me during the weekends. So weekends are especially booked for my family. I really enjoy it now.
Lovely. Thank
you. As you've come to the Champaign-Urbana area, are there things that you've encountered that have affected how you view your own personal life? Donna, you shared about, the work time. The weekends are yours now as opposed to before they weren't necessarily yours entirely. Those kinds of differences, are there aspects of that have affected how you view your own health and well-being now? Has it altered some things? Has it reinforced some things? Anita, you were talking about some of your history with, I believe it was your grandmother, and you were talking about, the idea that one thing might work for someone but not work for another, and the reasoning behind that. Sometimes the reasoning is with a belief system or an opinion. Sometimes it's based in some sort of data or experience, that sort of thing. Is there anything that as you came, you're like, I've really shifted my thinking in this area, or it's reinforced that, I was correct in the way I approach my own health and wellness?
Oh, yeah. I have now a new term in my, own lexicon. It's a self-care act. I haven't used that before, although I have some hobbies and like time for myself. But self-care act is like more general thing. It contains like, even time spent for yourself doing yoga or jogging just on your own, or, having some quality time just for your health. So this is something that I got here in Champaign-Urbana. Maybe it's a U.S. culture, because like every professor we have in the class or colleagues we talk to, they will ask you different questions. And what is the self-care act you do for yourself? So, well, I have to think. Apart from my family, apart from being, in the student and other things, then you think about yourself as an individual, which I haven't been thinking maybe for most of my life after being a mom. So before being a mom, you're just individual who can spend all the time for yourself. But after being committed to a person, it's kind of different.
And I think for me, like, there is a big, like, the change. Is like I mentioned, like in China, like from my family experience, like, we are very focused on our physical health. So we work a lot like with my parents, and there is very interesting. I forgot to share. Like my dad, he joined one working group like in our park. And, he's very committed for that group because they wake up every morning, like start 6:30. So like if my dad gonna be late, he gonna skip the breakfast to join them. And they wear the same t-shirt, people design, and like one person carry the speaker. So they play the music so everyone can keep the same pace. So that's very the popular thing in my hometown. So, like we are very focus on our physical health, like when we pick up the veggie, like we choose the fresh market. But like I think before I started abroad in the US, like I never thought about like the mental health, but like this is the one thing like I start to realize, okay, this is also the very like the big part of the self-care. Like back to my family specifically, people always say like, yes, everyone have the stress, like if other people can handle it, and then you should also have the ability to do that. So I always hold my feeling inside, like I just find my own way to figure out. But like once I start studying the US, I feel like it's nothing to feel like embarrassing. Like if you do feel like I'm overwhelmed, like this is too much for me, you can just tell to other people. But I think this is a big change from my experience actually.
It's interesting. You both in your prep separately, Aidana and Yaning, you both put the same idea, and basically it is that you're humans first and students second. That's something that's important to you, that you share with anybody you can talk to. That's really a big thing for both of you. And it sounds like you kind of came to that as you've grown and experienced new culture, and as you've traveled and you've kind of come into your own on that. And so I would say, yeah, that's a huge adjustment. Balance is a huge thing. Balance that work and self-care balance. And Anita, balance was something you talked about. And that you were talking about your grandmother, and she had some belief, and we talk about warm forces versus cold forces and finding that balance together. And but you said when you were younger, you kind of dismissed it, and you're kind of like, yeah. But now as you're getting older, you're like, there might be some value there. Would you share about that a little bit, about how you've learned more about what balance means in your own life?
I was an uppity teenager. And definitely karma has struck with my two teenagers.
Yeah, I've got kids, and my parents always look at me and go, yeah, you earned these because you did this as a kid. Now you get to see what it's like. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. So sorry, go ahead.
My grandmother had pretty strong ideas and lots of stories. But one of the things that sometimes I blew off when I was a teenager was this whole sense that like foods, very, very important in health, had warm qualities, cold qualities. They had to be balanced. Otherwise, they would appear in your body in some wrong way, like inflammatory or depressing or something, right? And so like when I was young, I definitely was like, oh, come on. Nutrition has only got like a few things that involve, like there's vitamins and carbs and proteins. Grandma, you don't know anything, right? But now I'm like, actually, balance is super important. And maybe if you visualize how the kinds of foods that you enjoy belong to different groups, and you create variety by how you think about it, you'll actually create a much more varied diet that will help you balance your life better. And so many of the things that she thought of, like told me when I was young, that I thought of as a little superstitious. Now that I'm old, I'm like, oh, maybe she had a point.
A lot of experiencing anything, whether it's new culture, new job, new area, having kids, that's a whole new experience. A lot of it is about learning as you go. And you have all talked about how you've learned as you've adjusted to new areas and new cultures and things like that. If someone heard this podcast and they came up and they found you and they said, okay, what would you advise? What's your one piece of advice for me if I wanted to figure out how to balance where I've come from with where I am, balance new ideas, new options, new opportunities with what I'm familiar with. Do you have any advice on that, or how to approach that, how to try and experience something new?
So I totally agree. As Anita said, the balancing. So balance actually, for me, refers to all the aspects of life, whether it's health, personal wellness, mental health, work, study, or you have different roles as life, goes through. But the main thing that I have myself, taught until this time is that the health and and wellness, mental wellness, should be the first thing in life, because I have worked so hard. I've been working all the weekends, and I've been there. It's not working good for my health or other, life aspects. And I've been totally thrown to the motherhood until the age 1 of my kid. I haven't worked. I stayed with him at home. That's not also good for myself. So now I'm just enjoying my time, working a little bit, studying a bit, and spending time with my family and spending some quality time for myself. That's the perfect balance I find for myself right now. I guess the balance should be, kind of personalize it. Every person will find their own balance, but make sure that there is some time for every aspect in your life. That's the experience that I enjoy and works for me.
And I might give the one suggestion is like the self-care is a thing worth time and effort for everyone to invest. So, and I do believe like everyone have your own way to like do the self-care, and I think everyone should spend more time to find your own way. And once it comes up, like the first thing is you need to recognize it. Like if you feel sad, if you feel stressed, and then like you need to forgive yourself first. And then like as a student, I know we do have lots of the office to support us. I work for the counseling center before, and I know they provide lots of good resources, and here like the McKinley. So I will see the students could ask help from the school for sure.
One of the areas that is key to self-care that we haven't necessarily touched on yet, and it's often forgotten, because when we think of self-care, we think of, I'm going to read a book, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to do something. One of the things that's really important to healthcare that's not so much about doing but being intentional is sleep. Make sure that you take that time for yourself and you do sleep. Was that something that was a shift or something like adjusting to sleep schedules here, or adjusting to societal schedules? Because I know in some countries you have your days start later and end later. Here you have, depending on your schedule as a student, you may start your classes at 11 and end later. You may start at 8 and be done by noon. Was adjusting how you approach your sleep, was that something you had to deal with as you were as you came here as opposed to your home country?
Yeah, here like in Champaign right now, evening, sun goes down around 5 or 6-ish, which is very early, because at 7 p.m. it's like so dark. You think like, oh, it's like 10 or 11 p.m. back in my home country, and my kid will not, refuse go sleeping. We have to find out something for him and play, as a family. That's the hardest thing for us currently. But then, time adjustment. And I found like many people just go, sleeping here in States, maybe just my experiences, very early, and they woke up very early. We usually wake up around 7-ish, and it's early for us. But here people start their day at 5 or 6. Wow, they go to gym. That's something I'm still encountering, trying to learn. Yeah.
Well, if it helps, I've grown up here my whole life, and I still encounter and struggle with that. My wife's like, we're going to get up at 6. I'm like, really? 6 happens once a day. It's not that. So it's not, not only international. But, Yenning, what about you? Any surprises when you start looking at sleep schedule?
I don't think there are lots of change like before. I mean, like I mentioned, this is my first master's PhD, and in the past 2 years, I also work in one higher education school in China. So like my day starts at 9, and like we start work from 9 to 5:30. And I think it's kind of similar, but the only thing is I think I wake up earlier, like since I start my PhD thing. The PhD things is it's a little bit negative, but like it's endless. So it's always a pressure. Makes me wake up pretty early. Like for now, I wake up around like 7 without alarm. It's just wake up by myself.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s in Beijing, like people would nap after lunch.
Oh, yes, that's a thing. So for me, I grew up, like I attend a boarding school since I'm in the elementary. So I stay in the same school for elementary, middle school, and high school. And every day after the lunch around like 12:30, and we have the mandatory nap time. Like you have to sleep. You cannot say, oh, I want to study, I want to read a book. It's not allowed. Like you have to sleep. So the taking the nap is a big thing for I won't say for Chinese people, but like at least for my home country, for my hometown, it's kind of near Beijing. But like since I started in the US in 2014, and I don't have that habit anymore because my class schedule is just, sometimes I have class at 1, so I cannot take the nap.
As a provider, I constantly tell kids to go sleep more.
Yes.
I'm like all the time. And I'm like, really, it's so good for your brain.
That's true.
Sleep more. And my daughter doesn't sleep enough, in my opinion. she has a tutor for Taiwan. They FaceTime or Zoom, whatever, every Sunday morning for my daughter. And I guess it's the evening.
It's a nighttime
tutor. The tutor shocked that in the Constitution there's no nap time. Because in Taiwan, there's like a constitutional right to nap.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And also even like when I worked, like for my previous employer, like we are the international school, but, we have the 1 hour lunch break from the noon to 1. But some of my colleagues, like they might have the quick lunch, like 30 minutes. And they have the very simple, like the bed, you can fold it. And then like after their quick lunch, they just sleep, like take the 20 minutes nap in the office. So sometimes when I walk back, I need to a little bit quiet to make sure I don't interrupt other people who are taking a nap.
That's one thing. When I've traveled to South America a few times, at siesta is that idea. And it was very jarring for me the first time because I was like, oh, I want to go to the store. And it was like 1 o'clock. And I'm like, there's nowhere I can go. But then we would eat dinner like 11 p.m. because everybody had napped during the day. And it's an adjustment. It is. I'm for the constitutional amendment of naps, by the way. That I'm okay with that. If we can make that happen, I am all for it. Yeah, it's just different experiences. And on a college campus, sleep is something that is sacrificed often. Our health is something that's sacrificed so often, whether it be a PhD student or a freshman. There's so much going on and so many obligations and opportunities that we often push that down to the bottom. Idana, you had a quote that I absolutely loved. You said a long time ago, people who sacrificed their sleep, family, food, laughter, and other joys of life were called saints. Now they're called PhD students. And I thought that was just fantastic because it's very true. It's very true. You go through and you go, yeah, check. And then you get to laughter and other joys. Yeah, check. And then but a lot of times we sacrifice that for our studies or families or things like that. And it does make a difference. And as you said, balance is so important. We could talk about, you guys have been fantastic. I could talk to you for hours, but we are out of time. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your own personal journeys and your experiences with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
There are always changes in life. There is always opportunity for new experiences, and whether it be a new job, starting a family, or moving, whether a new neighborhood, new town, new city, new country. There's always something new to learn, and there's always something new to be self-aware, to be aware of in your own self and how you approach things, how you adjust to new ideas, new cultural norms, and things like that. And we've been talking about a lot today about health and wellness. And if you're listening to this and you're coming from a different culture, whether it be international or just a different region, and you have questions, you're not sure where to turn, you're not sure where to start, you need a little help or just want to bounce some ideas off people, please reach out to us at Healthy Illini, reach out to McKinley Health Center, Counseling Center. There's a number of units on campus that want to help, as you walk this journey, want to walk with you, want to help guide, give experience, give opportunities, give resources. And so we'll have some of those resources listed in the bio of this episode as always, but I really encourage you to reach out. It really makes a world of difference when you talk to somebody and you realize that they've had similar experiences or that they can kind of shed some light on some of what you're seeing and what the background is in that. And so I really encourage you to reach out and talk to somebody, and it can be a huge part of your journey here. But thank you for joining us today. You are on a personal journey, no matter where you are in it. You are important and you matter. Your health and wellness are important and matter, and we're here to keep you well to excel. So go have a great week, Illini. Let us know how you're doing, and we'll catch you next time on Healthy Illini.